Okay, so this was your second AP classroom assignment that was due on Tuesday to help you to study for your test that's on Friday. So let's take a look at the first question. What is the average rate of change of cosine 2x on this interval? So we have cosine 2 times pi over 2 minus cosine of 0 all over pi over 2 minus 0. Okay, that's the average rate of change. So cosine of pi is -1. Then you have cosine of 0. Cosine of 0 is 1 over pi over 2. So I'm going to make that 2 over pi. Multiply by the reciprocal. So I get -4 over pi, which is choice A. Okay, let me scroll to the next question. So for question 2, we want to know which of the following is true. So you just have to understand the way these questions are written. That's really, it's from the perspective, the AP perspective. So first off, we're concerned with A, right? Now at A, we know the right hand and the left hand limits are equal. Okay? But we know that it's not continuous, okay? So we want to know which of the following is true. Well, what's true is that it's not continuous. Well, it's not continuous would be choice C, because the limit, okay, as x approaches A does not equal f of A. So that is true. Okay, so the first one is false. That language means that it's differentiable. Well, it's not differentiable there because it's not continuous. It can't be differentiable at a point if it's not continuous at a point. And certainly the left hand and the right hand limits are equal. That's why B is incorrect. And because those limits are equal, choice D is also incorrect because the limit does exist. Let's take a look at question 3. Number 1, you have to take note that this is the graph of the derivative. So which of the following statements must be true? Well, if you have the graph of the derivative, obviously it's continuous, right? And the derivative, you could see, is positive over here. So that means f of x is increasing there. So, okay, f is not decreasing on the entire interval. It's only decreasing from here to here. Then we have the graph of f is concave down. Well, concave down means you'd have negative slopes on the graph of the slope. So sure enough, all these slopes are negative. So that would be true. So it would be 1 and 3 only. Question 4, we want the derivative. So for this problem, we have to use the power rule. Then we need to use the chain rule and the quotient rule. Okay, so we bring down the power, leave the inner function in, subtract off 1. Now to get the derivative of the inner function, we have low, d high, minus high, d low, over low, low. Okay, so now I'm just going to clean this up, guys. So I get 5x to the 4th over x plus 1 to the 6th total. And then on that inside there, I have x plus 1 minus x. So cleans up nicely to 5x to the 4th over the 6th power of x plus 1, which is choice D. So we have f and g are twice differentiable functions. This is how they define g of x. Then they define, they say g double prime is equal to this, and we want h of x. Okay, so h of x is equal to g double prime of x over e to the f of x, right? Okay. So when you work this out, okay, it's just an oddly worded problem, but they will do that on the AP exam all the time. So I isolated h of x, right? Then I looked at my function g of x. I got g prime of x. I got g double prime of x. Then I went back to h of x, and I need to divide g double prime, which is all of this, by e to the f of x. So you can see that e to the f of x will cancel out. And so that's why I was left with 2 of these, so that was squared, plus f double prime of x. Okay, so that is choice D. Definitely a strange question. Haven't quite ever seen another one of that kind, but that is what will happen, okay? All right, question 6. I believe you guys asked me to do this one in class, but just in case someone didn't get it. So e is its own derivative, right? Okay, times the derivative of 1 over x, which is negative 1, x to the negative 2. So this is negative e to the 1 over x squared. Okay, so let's see. That is choice A. Okay, number 7. They're telling you the limit as x approaches 3 is 7. Which of the following must be true? Well, here's the thing, guys. If the limit exists, that does not mean it's continuous. I have no idea if f of 3 equals this limit. How would I know? So this is what I would need for it to be continuous, so I cannot assume that it's continuous. I cannot assume that it's differentiable, and I can't assume anything about the value of f of 3. So none of these must be true. Doesn't mean they can't be true. Must is a strong word. Okay, number 8. So at which value of the function f, at which value of x is the function continuous but not differentiable? And that would be where it has a corner, because the slope of the secant lines as you approach from the left and the right are different. Okay, so it would be right here, which is A. All right, so for this question, you have to look at what they're talking about. They want the derivative of ln at 2e. That's what this question is asking you. So the derivative of ln at 2e. So the derivative of ln x is 1 over x, but I want it at 2e. X is 2e, and that's why the answer is A. Okay, they're trying to throw you off. You got to be careful. So for the next question, 10, okay, they're saying as x approaches 2, what is the derivative, okay, of ln as x approaches 2? That's what this question is asking you. It's called the alternative or alternate form for the definition of a derivative as x approaches A. As x approaches A, where A is 2 here. So we want to know what is the derivative at x equals 2 of ln x. And so that would just be 1 over 2. Okay, you can see these two questions are similar, but they're worded very differently. All right, arc sine. So I asked you to memorize this. Arc sine is 1 over square root of 1 minus u squared, right, times the derivative of u. So I have to put the u in. So I get 5 over 1 minus 25x squared. The square root of 1 minus 25x squared, which is choice E. Very easy to mess up these questions. All right, so number 12, we have a table. And we want to know h prime of 1. A little difficult to read this. So h prime of x is f prime, leave the inner function in, and then get the derivative of the inner function. So this is a chain rule problem. So h prime at 1 is f prime of g of 1. Well, what's g of 1? G of 1 is 3 times g prime of 1. What's g prime of 1? Negative 2, yep. And so then I have f prime of 3, which is 7, times negative 2. So you get negative 14. So that's how they ask the chain rule, and that is a common way that they ask it. Now for question 13, they were asking us for the derivative of the inverse function. This is paired with 1, so we simply get 1 over f prime of 1. You get the reciprocal. So now I have to get f prime, 3x squared plus 1. Then I have to sub in 1, so I get 3 plus 1, 4, so I get 1/4. Okay, these problems are easy to be trained to do. Okay. Number 14. Okay, they're just trying to be a wise guy here. You need to cancel ln and e. So this is just asking you for the derivative of 2x. Okay, anybody that tried to do anything else, yeah, that'd be a hot mess. Okay, I tell this to my son all the time. You do have to be efficient in math, right? So any other way would be silly. All right, in this question, I'm using the chain rule again. I want h prime of 1. So this was similar to that other question we had. So I have h prime is f prime, leave the inner function in, g of x times g prime of x. Okay, I'm interested in this at 1, so I'm going to have f prime of g of 1 times g prime of 1. Okay, and then you just have to scavenge, go and scavenge for the answers. Well, g of 1 is 2, so I want f prime of 2. Well, f prime of 2 is negative 4. G prime of 1 is negative 3, so therefore it's 12. Okay, number 16. The graph of the derivative is shown. That is the derivative. All right, guys. So here you have the derivative is negative. That means that the function f, okay, starts off decreasing. Now, number one, these can't be linear, because the thing is, when you get the derivative, the power goes down. So get rid of those. Those would be silly. So the function is going to start off decreasing, right? Okay, which function starts off decreasing? E, right? So it has to be E. So that was a lucky analysis. All right. So in this question, we want the derivative of y with respect to u, okay? So we're showing respect to u. All right, so I'm going to solve for x. When I solve for x in terms of u, I get x equals u minus 1 over 2. So I'm going to go to the y function. Y equals u minus 1 over 2. squared minus 2 times u minus 1. So that would just be minus u minus 1. Okay, I think I'm reading this right. dy du. But then I'm looking at the choices and thinking, was this supposed to be dy dx? I don't think so. All right, so I can go back and put it in terms of x. So I have, okay, I have y prime. Okay, so dy du is equal to 2 times u minus 1 over 2, okay, to the first times the derivative of u, which is just 1. And then keep in mind that that's that, but when I get that derivative, I just get negative 1. This cancels, so I end up having u minus 1 or u minus 2. Okay, but now I can go back and say, okay, but u is 2x plus 1. So then it would be 2x minus 1. Okay, so I realized that I made a mistake when I used the chain rule. It should have been times a half here, because it should be the derivative of u over 2. All right, so if that's a half, now let me see what I have. So I have u over 2 minus a half minus 1. So I have u over 2 minus 3 halves, or u minus 3 over 2. So now when I put the x back in, I have 2x plus 1 minus 3 over 2. So that would be 2x minus 2 over 2, which would be x minus 1. Kind of a weird oddball problem. And look at how that careless error could have really messed me up there had I not caught myself. All right, so now in number 18, you need to think about the definition of this function. So x plus 7, the absolute value of x plus 7 is either x plus 7 or the opposite of x plus 7. Okay, now the point where it would change would be at negative 7. So it would be x plus 7. So if you think about negative 7, right? Okay, on the inside, if you're greater than negative 7, it's positive. So when x is greater than or equal to negative 7, it's just positive. But when x is less than negative 7, then it's negative. So the thing is, it's non-existent because the left hand and the right hand limits are not going to be equal. The limit as x approaches negative 7 from the right will be positive 1, but from the left will be negative 1. Okay, so there's a jump. Okay, so therefore the limit does not exist. We've done one similar to that at some point. May have done the same one. I probably liked it so much. Okay, so in the next question, number 19, we're getting the limit as x goes to infinity. So this is growth rates. So no nerd feels especially proud loving calculus. So that would be like x to the x, factorial, exponential, polynomial, logarithmic, constant. So these polynomial functions are what you need to focus on. You need to focus on the highest power, which is x squared. Take their coefficients, or you can use L'Hopital's rule. Okay, in number 20, I want g of 1. So in order to get g of 1, I'm going to get 1 over f prime of 0, because 1 is paired with 0. So when 1 goes into g, it's coming out of f, and 0 is going into f. So I have to get the derivative of f of x. So this is f prime of x. Bring down the power, subtract off 1, and now I have to substitute in 0. So I'm going to get 3 times 1 times 2, which is 6. So So this is 1/6. Choice D. All right, that concludes this video. Thank you.